Hey guys, and welcome back to another video, and today we have my review of A Nightmare on Elm Street, the 2010 remake. This video will contain spoilers, even though I wouldn't recommend watching this film, but yeah, just in case you do want to watch it and you have not yet. Before I start, I want to say I love the original film. I'll get around to reviewing it someday. I really love it, it's one of my favourite horrors, but I don't hate this film. Well, I do hate this film, but I think there is some good stuff in there, so let's start with that. The opening scene is pretty great. It sets a good tone of what the film wants to be, even though it fails after that, but you know. I actually really like Jack Haley in this film as Freddy. It's a real shame how the script failed him miserably, but I really like him and what he does with what he's given, I guess. He definitely does the best, and you can tell he's trying, and I really like his performance, and I think he'd suit a dark and grey Freddy. The acting all round is fine. The standouts other than Jack Haley are probably Kay Cassidy. I may be biased because I've seen her on the Arrow shows, but I just think she's pretty good in everything she does, really, from what I've seen. I'll talk about the other characters in a bit, though. I really like the Micronaps edition as well. I think all the practical effects are really good as well. And that's basically all the good I can say, unfortunately. With this being a remake instead of a reboot, it instantly loses points for me because it's not starting over, it's recreating something that's already been done, because there's obviously a difference between a remake and a reboot. And like Child's Play from 2019 is a reboot, not a remake, and it instantly loses points for me because there's no point in doing it, really, unless you feel like you actually have something to say using what the original film did and just portraying it in a different way, or something like that. I hope you understand what I mean. But the CGI here is awful. It's really bad. In particular, the scene where Freddy is in the wall. Can you, if anyone thinks that looks better than the original, I mean, first of all, more power to you. But second of all, you're wrong. The pacing feels just jagged. It doesn't feel like the film was thought out. It felt like they filmed a load of stuff, a load of random stuff, and then pieced it together in the editing room. In some ways it felt like one of those films that studios push out just to keep the rights to them, like The Amazing Spider-Man 2 or Fant4stic, which I hope I never have to talk about. The characters are so unlikable. I mean, Chris, who is Kay Cassidy's character, she falls asleep at a funeral. How does the crew expect us to like her when she falls asleep at her friend's funeral? And I think, now that I think about it, the whole plot is kind of set off, like, of them investigating everything, set off from that point. Speaking of Chris, though, for a while this film actually treats her as the main character, and I don't know why, because obviously she dies, but I just don't know why it does that. There is no point to that. There's just a large segment where it feels like she's the main character, when obviously it's Nancy, but yeah. And everyone else they're not characters. I don't want to call them characters, they're not. They're not. I don't know what they are. But I want to talk about Quentin for a second. Again, not really a character, but I think they were trying to make him like an edgy teenager kind of person, but the actor for him unfortunately doesn't do a great job. I just don't think it's a good performance from him, which is unfortunate. As I always say, it's nothing against the actor. I'm sure he's a really nice man and he's extremely talented to even get in that position, but just for this performance I just didn't like it, and it didn't work for me at all. I know Quentin has got a bit of a fan base online, but I don't know, I just personally, I don't like him, and the performance was a letdown for me as well. So let's talk about Freddy now, which involves some of the biggest changes from the original, which I'll get into soon. But this film sets out to be darker than the original, but we still have Freddy throwing around one-liners, and they're just timed awfully, and it just doesn't suit with the tone it's going for. It doesn't work. But of course the biggest change, Freddy's now a full, like, pedophile, and it's explicit as hell. Like, it was hinted at in the original, but it's just explicit, it's clear as day, it's thrown at us, and it doesn't make it scary, it's just disgusting, especially towards the end. Some of the stuff that Freddy says, it's horrible and not enjoyable to watch. There's also a plotline in this film where Quentin and Nancy think Freddy could have been wrongly accused of what he did to them as children, but if we hadn't seen Freddy be sexual to Chris beforehand, and if this wasn't a remake, that could have been really interesting. But yeah, it's not. There is definitely stuff here I like, but it's very limited. I'm hoping they reboot the franchise, not remake, reboot, and or even do something like the Halloween franchise did, just make a sequel to the first one, because I love the just the idea of Nightmare on Elm Street, and I'd love to see some more. I think there's some really cool things they could do in the modern day, but unfortunately this movie is just trash, and I hate it. And I give A Nightmare on Elm Street 2010 a 3 out of 10. Thank you guys so much for watching. As always, this is just my opinion. Let me know what you thought of this film in the comments. Do you agree with me, or do you love this film, or hate it for other reasons? I love to hear all of your thoughts as long as you do it in a respectful way. Take care, and I will see you in the next one.